After such a wonderful tale from the Sultan of the Mast's wife, he was kind enough to provide me a ship with a crew. Everyone thought that I was mad, but I did want to find the continent of Unclarctica. I had heard of a race of penguin folk, Pengosians, I believe they're called. They live there. I was interested in learning more about them. Once we docked, I tried to convince the crew to come with me. They refused. I understood. I'm sure that they weren't too keen on such a temperature change. Besides, I saw a few Pengosians on the coast anyway. I tried to talk to some of the Pengosians, but there was a bit of a language barrier. After attempting to talk to so many Pengosians, I was ready to give up. Until night fell. The tribe had built a great big bonfire in the middle of the village, where the Pengosians communed. I was in for an unexpected treat. As the night progressed, they started to play some music, and they started dancing. I noticed the dance was very specific, like it was telling a story. I decided I would do my best to transcribe it. There was a tribe of Pengosians that had a human among them. His name was Ulterion. He would have frequent walks through the village, greeting all the Pengosian tribespeople.
Hey there, Mr. Quackers. I have no idea what you're saying.
Though he was allowed to walk around, he wasn't part of the village. He was their prisoner. The tribe was dealing with a sea demon that kept eating their people, so they captured Ulterion as a sacrifice instead. They were keeping him until then, but that's a story for a different day. Anyway, Ulterion did have one friend. It was a little Pengosian girl that he named Chatter. Chatter was an interesting little girl due to her ability to understand and speak common upon first meeting Ulterion. Ulterion would have long chats with Chatter, mostly Ulterion telling her stories. Did I tell you about the were-octopus pirate? But one night, Ulterion was feeling depressed.
What story did he have tonight?
Sorry, little one. Not tonight.
What's the matter?
Other than waiting for my imminent doom, nothing much.
Is there anything I can do?
Can you grant wishes?
Chatter merely stared at a human friend.
No?
Ulterion sneered.
I didn't think you would.
Sounds like you could use She of Cold Flippers.
Ulterion nodded.
Yeah.
Ulterion gave Chatter a curious look.
What?
You've never heard of She of Cold Flippers?
A few days ago, I didn't hear of you.
Chatter shrugged.
Fair enough. It was a few years ago, or so I heard. She of Cold Flippers was born in the village. She was born different from everyone else.
Did she have cold flippers?
Yes, how did you know?
Just a guess. Continue.
Anyway, She of Cold Flippers tried to make friends.
No, don't come near us with those cold flippers.
As she grew older, she discovered she had more than just cold flippers. She of Cold Flippers found that she could affect the environment. Her touch could freeze lakes. She could summon blizzards. And her deadliest ability was to drain the warmth out of living things. That last ability is what made the others chase her away.
I'm so tired of living alone and so tired of these cold flippers.
So she went off to live on her own.
Ulterion scratched his head.
What does that have to do with our problem?
Chatter shrugged.
I figured since she has so many powers, she might grant wishes too.
It's worth a shot.
Ulterion smiled at Chatter.
Let's go!
What?
Ulterion managed to sneak out of his tent with a very reluctant Chatter. They made their way quietly through the camp.
Where are we going?
We're going to find She of Cold Flippers.
But that's a legend.
Ulterion smiled. All legends have some truth to them. Ulterion and Chatter managed to sneak out of the camp. And they trekked. And trekked. And trekked. And trekked. Until Chatter said,
Where are we going?
Ulterion stopped in his tracks and looked at Chatter in panic.
What? I thought you were leading me to her.
Chatter shrugged.
Fine. Let's head back to the village.
Ulterion looked around at the white wasteland around him.
How do we get back to the village?
So Ulterion and Chatter searched for the village. They trekked, and trekked, and trekked, and trekked, until their feet couldn't carry them anymore, and they dropped onto their hindquarters, into the snow.
Where are we?
Ulterion looked around, but could only see snow.
I was hoping you knew.
The weather got worse. Ulterion and Chatter managed to find an ice cave and huddled together to stay warm, in vain.
I'm sorry, little one.
Me too.
What are you sorry for?
Listening to you.
The storm eventually subsided. Ulterion and Chatter managed to get some sleep. However, something heard the two loud snorers. Ulterion was in a deep sleep, feeling the warmth of the fire on his face. It felt wonderful. Then he remembered he didn't make a fire.
Huh?
Ulterion's eyes popped open and he found that he was no longer in an ice cave, but a cottage next to a warm fire.
Ulterion?
Ulterion turned around to see Chatter staring down at him with a big smile on her face.
Good morning.
Hey,
Ulterion smiled. Ulterion looked around.
where are we?
Her home.
Who's home?
Ulterion looked up into the face of the old wrinkly Pengosian.
Ah!
Ulterion crawled backwards, away towards a wall.
Tell her we mean her no harm.
The old Pengosian sneered.
She knows.
Ulterion stared at the old Pengosian in shock.
Oh, you speak common.
Ulterion.
Ulterion looked at Chatter in shock.
What?
Chatter pointed a flipper at the old Pengosian.
It's her.
Ulterion looked back and forth from the two Pengosians.
What?
Realization hit Ulterion.
She of cold flippers.
She of cold flippers made her guests some soup. Ulterion smiled at She of cold flippers.
This is good. What is it?
She of cold flippers shook her head.
Best not to ask.
Ulterion stared suspiciously at his soup, then shrugged and went back to eating. After everyone was done with his soup, Chatter slept in the corner. While Ulterion and She of cold flippers chatted.
Is everything they say true?
She of cold flippers smirked, placed one of her flippers on Ulterion's hands.
Some of it.
Ulterion was surprised at how cold the flipper was.
Wow, that is cold.
Ulterion gave She of cold flippers a curious look.
How did this happen?
She of cold flippers shrugged.
Ask the gods about that.
How can you speak common? Is that because of the gods too?
She of cold flippers shrugged again.
Sure. It's as good as an explanation as anything.
Ulterion pointed to Chatter.
Is she going to be like...
Like me?
Ulterion nodded sheepishly.
She would only be so lucky. I felt her flippers. They don't feel like mine. But she does possess the lingual.
lingual?
Yes. Linguals are individuals that can learn different tongues simply by hearing them.
That's why Chatter can talk to me.
She probably learned it from you.
When did you learn common?
Oh, that was years ago.
Really?
Of course. Do you think you're the only visitor to this land?
I didn't really choose to come here.
No one does.
Ulterion sneered.
Speaking of getting out of here, do you have anything that will get rid of a sea demon?
Sadly, a lot of my powers are rumor and myth.
I should have figured.
However,
Ulterion's ears perked up.
I believe I can transport people out of here.
Ulterion's eyes widened.
Really?
Yes, I spent years gathering the materials. I lack one last component.
Ulterion practically drooled in excitement.
What is that?
Polar bear saliva.
Ulterion's smile disappeared.
Of course it is.
Luckily, a polar bear lives in a cave in a mountain not far from here.
Ulterion rolled his eyes.
Luckily.
I would go, but
Ulterion waved her off.
It's fine. I'm used to these fetch quests.
Ulterion pointed to Chatter.
Will you watch after her?
She of Cold Flippers smiled.
of course.
Ulterion made his way to the mountain, fighting the freezing wind.
I wish these people understood distance.
Ulterion found his way to the mountain. He looked up. The tip disappeared into the grey clouds above.
She said the bear's cave is up here. So you have to climb several feet. It should be simple.
Then let's go!
You're optimistic.
Realization came to Ulterion as he looked down at Chatter.
What are you doing here?
Ulterion clapped a hand over his mouth. Chatter went to say something, but Ulterion clapped a hand over her beak. Ulterion put a finger to his lips.
Shh.
Ulterion pointed to the mountain.
You have to be quiet. We don't want to start an avalanche.
Chatter nodded.
Why are you here?
I'm missing out on the fun.
Fun.
Ulterion clapped a hand on his mouth again and looked towards the mountain. When he saw no activity, he took a deep breath to compose himself.
Okay, we're just going to find a polar bear with a child. Nothing wrong here.
Ulterion and Chatter climbed, struggling to ascend and stay silent. Ulterion and Chatter made their way through the ice cave, very quietly. Ulterion and Chatter found the polar bear. Asleep. Ulterion clapped his hand on Chatter's beak. Chatter looked up at him as he put a finger to his lips. Chatter nodded. Ulterion slowly moved the vial she of Cold Flippers had given him towards the polar bear's mouth.
Don't wake up. Don't wake up.
Ulterion managed to collect a lot of drool. A lot of drool.
You.
Once Ulterion collected what he needed, he and Chatter, quietly, made their way towards the exit of the cave. Chatter was so excited.
I'm so excited!
Ulterion put a finger to his lips.
We're gonna defeat the sea demon!
Ulterion aggressively banged his finger to his lips.
We could...
Ulterion grabbed Chatter's beak, forgetting how sharp it was.
Ow!
Ulterion froze in horror as he heard the polar bear waking up.
Damn!
Ulterion had picked up Chatter and started running. Ulterion looked back to see the polar bear gaining.
Ah!
Ulterion picked up his pace. Ulterion ran out of the cave and just barely stopped
Whoa!
before going over the edge. Ulterion looked down, then back to the cave where the bear was still charging towards him. Ulterion looked around in panic until he noticed some rocks falling from above. He had formed a plan he hated. He looked down at Chatter.
Do you trust me?
Chatter gave him a curious look.
Yes?
Ulterion nodded.
Good enough.
Ulterion raised his head to the sky and let out a scream.
Ah!
The polar bear was almost upon Ulterion and Chatter, and was just about to pounce when an enormous wave of snow came crashing down on everyone. A few moments passed. Ulterion climbed out of the snow.
Quite a ride. Wasn't it, Chatter?
Upon only hearing silence and not seeing his friend, Ulterion looked around more frantically.
Chatter?
Ulterion saw one of Chatter's flippers sticking out of the pile of snow.
Chatter?
Ulterion frantically dug through the snow. Until he uncovered Chatter, who was unresponsive.
Chatter!
Ulterion shook Chatter.
Come on, kid. Wake up.
Ulterion slapped her a couple times.
Get up. Get up.
She was unresponsive.
No, 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 no. No, 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 no.
She of Cold Flippers was mixing some items together. She was excited about the teleportation spell. She was too advanced in her age to get to the polar bear jewel, so it was fate that the human and the young Pengosian had found her, more that she found them. In her excitement, she had not noticed that Chatter had sneaked away, leaving a double made of blankets and pillows. She of Cold Flippers looked towards the door with a smile.
Oh, good, he's back.
She of Cold Flippers opened the door.
I'm glad you were able to.
She of Cold Flippers was horrified to see Chatter's unconscious body in Ulterion's arm.
What happened? How did she?
Can you help her?
I can, but.
Bring her back!
But.
Bring her back! She of Cold Flippers was going to try another protest until she saw the tears streaming down the human's face. Please.
All right, let's get her inside. There's no time to lose.
Chatter awoke, with Ulterion staring down at her. About time you woke up. Chatter looked around in groggy confusion.
Huh? What?
At Ulterion's guest/prisoner tent. She looked at him, puzzled.
Where's she of Cold Flippers?
Ulterion gave her a confused look of his own. Who?
She of Cold Flippers. We went on a journey to find her. We had to get polar bear jewel.
Ulterion gently touched Chatter's shoulder to calm her down. Whoa, 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 little one. I think you had a dream. Chatter shook her head.
No. We went to the polar bear's cave. You collected the jewel. It chased us. You started an avalanche and
Realization hit Chatter like a wave of ice and snow. She looked up at Ulterion in confused horror.
died.
Ulterion gave his little penguin friend a reassuring smile. Do you feel dead right now? Chatter examined herself. When she could verify that she indeed was alive, she looked up at Ulterion.
No.
Ulterion shrugged. Well? Chatter shrugged back.
Oh. Guess it must have been a dream.
A nightmare? Chatter shook her head.
No.
No.
Although I didn't care for the ending, it was nice to have an adventure with you, even if it was a dream.
Ulterion smiled. Well, you need to get your sleepy butt home.
Come on.
Come on, get going. Come back tomorrow and I'll tell you all about the pirate octopus monster, and how he came at me with his 10 tickles. Ulterion tickled Chatter, who laughed hysterically. Tick, 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 tick. Torical waved to Chatter as she left. Ulterion turned around to find himself facing She of Cold Flippers. Ah!
Do you think you were believed?
Ulterion composed himself. How did you get in here?
Arcane secrets.
Really?
No. I climbed under a flap.
Ulterion sneered. Oh, yes. I think I was believed. She of Cold Flippers nodded.
Good.
Sorry I ruined the teleportation spell. She of Cold Flippers shrugged. Ulterion nodded.
The small one was more important.
True.
You know that you're still going to be sacrificed to the sea demon.
Ulterion nodded. Yeah.
But you're a resourceful one.
Ulterion shrugged. Yeah.
I'm sure you plan to go back to your quest.
Ulterion nodded. Yeah.
I take it you promised Chatter an adventure.
Ulterion smiled and nodded. Yeah. She of Cold Flippers gave Ulterion a stern look.
Break that promise.
Ulterion's smile disappeared. I intend to.
Good.
She of Cold Flippers turned to leave.
Good night, Ulterion.
Good night, She of... Ulterion smiled. A warm heart.
Oh, none of that. I have a reputation to keep.
I was surprised that I was able to discern such a story through a dance. It
must have been mystical in nature. I showed the Pengosian people my gratitude before my Kilnochi sailors and I departed.